if one is born 10 years prior to the technology becoming ubiquitous to society, that individual, given that that individual lives to a fully developed brain, lives long enough to develop their brain fully, two things happen. The years from adolescence to a fully developed brain imagine a piece. Imagine your Stretch Armstrong guy, right? That's when you first get him right out of the package. That's your adolescent brain. You can pull it in all sorts of ways, and it comes back to, hi, Stretch Armstrong. And by the time that brain has become fully developed, it's stretched in every way. And that's your brain. So two things have happened from adolescence to full development. One, the ability to cognitively cope with new and future technologies. But here's the thing. Because you've spent your the time from adolescence to full development, pulling, tearing, pulling, and you didn't die, well, now you are made short-sighted. You've both been able to cognitively cope with the radical changes that have taken place in your life. You're far different than the person you were and would have been without these technologies. But you're still here. The problem, though, is that the technologies that are created and become ubiquitous after the brain becomes fully developed, you are incapable of understanding the long-term consequences on future generations. So if you were born 10 years before the television became ubiquitous, you would be 10 years old, plug in that TV, and be like, mind blown. But then, when the computer comes out, you're not able to understand that this is much different than just a screen in a box. This is much different than 3 channels on a knob. When it went from black and white to color, you probably at that point properly felt what you should have felt. mind blown again. But you can only be mind blown so many times before it's like, oh, and I'm still here. So if you were born 10 years before Apple came out with their computer, and then you plugged in your Apple computer and it wasn't like a contour or a, we're actually talking about bits now. Well, then, compute increases. Like, whoa, 8, what, 16, what, 32, 64. Who even needs 64? Well, again, your mind's been blown enough times that when words like terabyte, you're just like, So if you were born 10 years before the internet, and when you were 10 years old, you plugged it in and went, welcome, you've got mail. Well, then when things like instant communication with the whole of the world, first your friend, right? Just try this out. What are you doing today? Want to go skateboarding? What the heck? And then they're like, well, now you can watch and see just about anything or learn or know anything. Mind blown, mind blown, mind blown, mind blown. So if you were born 10 years before the iPhone, and when you were 10 years old, your parents were stupid enough because they at this point were brain broken and short-sighted and had cognitively coped with how technology will affect them and had also been brain broken and robbed of the foresight to understand the consequences on future generations of these future technologies. And they gave you that iPhone. Well, now that 10-year-old has instant access to everything that we humans have created over the last... If it could be digitized, it's there. Along with the internet. Along with apps. Because, the internet wasn't enough. No, we all had to go out and create our own internets. Internets inside of internets inside of internets. Subscriptions become a thing. Ownership disappears. Wait, I'm not gonna go to Blockbuster and... What? No, you're not gonna go to GameStop and buy your PlayStation disc and take it home. No, you're gonna log on to the internet, type in some key code, and now you can, for as long as you've continued your subscription, continue to play this game that we call. So if you were born 10 years before artificial intelligence became ubiquitous to society, and when you were 10 years old, instead of an iPhone, your mom and your dad were like, this is Jarvis. He's your best friend. You can ask him anything. He can answer all of your questions. He is going to replace your imagination. And where once you would have just had these thoughts and questions and ideas and just ran rampant with the human mind. No, now you will obfuscate all of that. And your imagination will be turned into prompts that your best friend Jarvis will then imagine. And then he'll tell you what ideas you should have. He'll tell you. It's a double-edged sword. The ability to adapt and to cope and still move forward robs you of the foresight necessary to see the long-term consequences of future technologies on future generations. Ergo, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Take care. I love you all, and be blessed.